All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. I picked the Cincinnati Bengals to hold serve at home on Thursday night. I picked the game to be a little closer than it was, but obviously things changed with the injury to Tua Tagovailoa for the Miami Dolphins, and you just hope, obviously, going forward, that that young man is okay. The Bengals got the much needed win to get themselves back at 500, and they're looking to push ahead in the AFC North. Now, with that said, we've got some good games on tap for tomorrow, as well as the Monday night affair. And here are my picks for week number 4 in this NFL season. Now, it's going to start tomorrow on the other side of the pond, as you're going to have the Minnesota Vikings and New Orleans Saints facing off in London. No Jameis Winston at quarterback for the Saints, which means that it's going to be another veteran quarterback under center for New Orleans, this time the former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, Andy Dalton. But for New Orleans to go out and win this game, I think it's going to come down to their ability to run the ball with Alvin Kamara. And I think when you have a veteran quarterback like Andy Dalton, he has to know, and he does know, to rely on the talent around him. You have Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas at wide receiver, along with Alvin Kamara. And, when you think about Andy Dalton's careers, we've seen good Andy Dalton and we've seen bad Andy Dalton. Bad Andy Dalton shows up whenever Andy Dalton tries to do too much. So if Andy Dalton can just play within the realm of the offense tomorrow for New Orleans, they've got a shot. You've also got this Saints defense that has been stout at times, and that's going to be an interesting matchup. This New Orleans defense going up against this Vikings offense led by Kirk Cousins. And what we've seen from Kirk Cousins throughout his career, he's another quarterback who's been up and down. He's been solid so far at home. The one road start was a little shaky at best against the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's see what happens tomorrow. But I think this game comes down to who's going to play the better D and which quarterback is going to protect the ball. I'm going to give the edge in this one, even with a backup quarterback, to New Orleans. And I'm going to take the Saints by the score of 27-20. Now you're going to have the 2-1 Cleveland Browns traveling to take on the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. And for Cleveland, it's the injury bug, as they're going to be without defensive end Myles Garrett, who was in a car accident this week. That definitely changes things for their defense. But I look at this Falcons team, and the thing is, they're 1-2. They got the win on the road last week in Seattle, and they're going to try to build some momentum off of that. And if you look at this Falcons team play so far this season, they've been very game. They've been in every game. And now that they got that first win of the season under their feet, I think it's going to give them some confidence. And because of that, I'm going to take Atlanta to squeak out the 24-22 win tomorrow afternoon. Now, when at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, you're going to have the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys taking on the 1-2 Washington Commanders in this old NFC East rivalry. Dallas comes into this game favored by a field goal, but you look at what they've been so far with Cooper Rush under center at quarterback. And for Cooper Rush, he goes out there, he doesn't try to do too much. He plays to his strengths. And then also he relies on the people around him. But I think this game is going to come down to this Dallas front seven going up against this Washington O line, because if they can get to Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz and sack him, force a fumble, maybe force an interception or two, definitely advantage Cowboys. I'm going to give the Cowboys the edge in that department, and thus I'm going to take Dallas at home in this one by the score of 27-20. Now you're going to have the 1-2 Seattle Seahawks traveling to take on the 1-2 Detroit Lions. Detroit comes into this game favored by a field goal, and for good reason, because you've seen what the Lions have done so far on this young season under Dan Campbell. They've been right there in all three ball games, and very easily we could be talking about the 3-0 Lions right now. I think what has to happen for Detroit, they've been playing a very physical brand of football, and that's paying homage to their head coach. Dan Campbell came in, he wanted to establish both the offensive line and defensive line. And we've seen that so far on this young season for the Lions. But I think this game is going to come down to which quarterback can protect the ball. Geno Smith for Seattle or Jared Goff for Detroit. If Detroit can get a lead early and if they can keep Seattle in third and long situations, advantage to them because it's going to get the crowd noise going at Ford Field in Motown. I think this is going to be a solid game, and I'm going to take the Lions at home by the score of 30-24. Now you're going to have the 1-2 Tennessee Titans traveling to take on the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts. The Colts come into this game favored by 3.5 points, and they are coming in here after getting their first win of the season in a hard fought battle at home last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the beginning of October, but this is a very important game because you go back to last season. The Colts barely missed out on the postseason, but also they were swept last year in the regular season at the hands of the Titans, and they finished off their series with the Titans very early on. So, the Colts are basically fighting an uphill battle for the remainder of the year. For Indianapolis, like I keep saying, they have to establish the line of scrimmage offensively with their running game and Jonathan Taylor. Matt Ryan last week played his best game of his young Colts career, and I think this team wants to feed off of that. For the Titans, they got things going offensively last week against the Raiders, but I expect this Colts defense to try to slow down Derrick Henry and make Ryan Tannehill beat them in the pocket with his arm. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. Both of these teams know how important that this contest is. And I'm going to take Indy at home by the score of 26-23. Now at MetLife Stadium, you're going to have the 2-1 New York Football Giants hosting the 2-1 Chicago Bears. New York comes into this game favored by a field goal over Chicago. And both of these young teams want to really get some footing under them this season. The Giants, they started off 2-0. They lost a tough one on Monday night at home versus the Dallas Cowboys. This is their third straight home game. And the last thing that you want to do if you're the Giants is lose two of your first three at home. You look at this Giants defense, they've been very solid so far this season under defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. And honestly, the Giants defense has been solid over the past couple of years. It's been their offense that's been their bugaboo. New York is showing that they can run the football effectively with Saquon Barkley. I think the biggest thing for the Giants in this game, they've got to find a way to come away with sevens and not threes when they get down inside the 25-yard line, which means the onus is going to be on Daniel Jones. But you don't want to put too much on Daniel Jones because we've seen him throughout his NFL career. He's a guy that when he tries to do too much, it works against him, and of course the Giants as well. This Giants defense, they want to go out there and try to confuse Bears quarterback Justin Fields. But also, again, Fields is one of those guys you got to keep him in the pocket because if Fields gets on the edge, this Giants defense will definitely have their hands full. I think this is going to be a very nip and tuck, back and forth affair. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give New York the edge at home by the score of 20-18. Now it's going to be the return of Doug Peterson to the city of brotherly love as the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars come to take on the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, Peterson's run as the head coach of the Eagles didn't end on a good note rather. But you think about the high point, and you got to go back to when he helped the Philadelphia Eagles win their first and only Super Bowl championship. Now he returns. This Eagles team is a lot different, and now he has a young quarterback again that he's trying to turn things around for with Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence has been playing some good football in the last couple of weeks. We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars get a win at home against the Colts, which was followed by another dominating victory last week on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. For Jacksonville, they got to keep starting fast, and that's what they've been doing so far on this two-game winning streak, starting fast and putting pressure on their opponents. But you look at this Philly offense, and it's like a well-oiled machine right now. So I think the onus is going to be on this Jags defense to try to slow them down. I tell you like this is going to be a solid game. Philly comes into this contest favored by 6.5 points. And I think this game will come down to about the final 5 minutes of the contest before it's salted away. But with that said, I'm still going to take Philadelphia at home in this one by the score of 31-24. Now, across the Quaker State, you're going to have the 1-2 New York Jets traveling to take on the 1-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh comes into this contest favored by 3.5 points, and they're taking on a Jets team that's hopeful that they can really get things going now that their starting quarterback, Zach Wilson, is back. What we've seen from the Steelers so far is plain and simple. They have to rely on their defense because their offense with quarterback Mitch Trubisky has been very inconsistent. Now you have Zach Wilson coming back from a knee injury. You have a quality defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which means they're going to try to go out there and really test that knee of Zach Wilson, meaning bringing pressure, making him run around, and making him prove that he is fully back from that injury. I think that the Steelers' defense is going to have to go out there and win this game because their offense will continue to be inconsistent. But I will take Pittsburgh at home by the score of 24-17. Now, in what could possibly be the game of the day, you're going to have the 2-1 Buffalo Bills traveling to take on the 2-1 Baltimore Ravens. And for Buffalo, they know that they let one get away last week against a very good Miami team, and now they got to try to find a way to get them back on track. You got two of the better quarterbacks in the AFC, of course, Josh Allen for Buffalo and Lamar Jackson for Baltimore. You look at these defenses. I know that the Bills are dealing with some injuries right now, but they've got to try to find a way to slow down Lamar Jackson. He's off to that strong start. You had to expect that, being that this is a contract year for him, but nonetheless, Buffalo has to find a way to slow him down. Also, for this Ravens defense, they've been giving up points and yardage in the last couple of weeks. We saw Miami shred them a couple of weeks ago, and even New England was moving the football against them last week. They just had some key turnovers. But at the end of the day, of the quarterbacks that the Ravens have faced so far, Josh Allen is the best one, and I think he's going to give them a problem all day long. Thus, I'm going to take the Bills on the road in this one by the score of 31-27. Now, you're going to have the winless Houston Texans hosting the 1-2 Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles comes into this game favored by 5.5 points. And for everything that we hear about the Chargers being, Super Bowl contenders, and that's not to take anything away from them, they continuously find ways to lose games that they should win. And now they're 1-2, and they got to try to find a way to get back on track. They can't just pencil this one in because go back to last season, and the Chargers lost on the road to the Texans. And I know that a lot of people want to circle the regular season finale against the Raiders as a big reason why the Chargers didn't make the playoffs. Go back and look at this game late in the season as the Chargers simply were not ready to play. And more importantly, this Texas defense really put some pressure on quarterback Justin Herbert. Herbert tried to fight his way through the injury last week, and you got to respect him for that. But at the end of the day, not just him, his entire team has to be playing better. No Joey Bosa, as he's currently on IR, but then guys like Khalil Mack have to step up for this Chargers defense. Also, in regards to the Chargers, when they get the ball, they've got to be more consistent. I know that they're dealing with some injuries as well, and they're going to have their hands full with this Texans defense. The biggest fate thing working for the Chargers right now, the Texans offense is not that good. And because of that, I think the Lightning Bolts escape Houston with the 24-20 win. Now, it's going to be a battle of former Oklahoma quarterbacks that have won the Heisman Trophy. As you're going to have Kyler Murray and the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals traveling to Charlotte to take on Baker Mayfield and the 1-2 Carolina Panthers. Now, for Carolina, they got their first win of the season in dominating fashion over the New Orleans Saints, and it was their D that got the job done. And you really haven't been thinking about the Panthers D, but that's going to be a key for them once again. Will they be able to contain Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray? I think, you just looking at this game, you look at both of these quarterbacks, and they have strong arms, but they're also known for making plays with their legs. So it's going to be important for the opposing defenses to keep each quarterback in the pocket in order to neutralize what he can do. It's going to be a nip and tuck affair, but I am going to give Arizona the 30-24 edge. Now you're going to have the 1-2 New England Patriots traveling to Lambeau to take on the 2-1 Green Bay Packers. Green Bay comes into this contest favored by 9.5 points, and for good reason. No Mac Jones at quarterback for New England, as he's out with the high ankle sprain, which means that it's going to be veteran Brian Hoyer under center. Short term, do you trust Brian Hoyer if you're the Patriots to win games? No. Long term, no. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to deal with a veteran in Brian Hoyer going up against Aaron Rodgers, one of the better quarterbacks to have ever played in the NFL, and he's at home. It's going to be a long afternoon for the Patriots, and I'm going to take Green Bay at home in this one by the score of 34-27. Now, it's a classic AFC West battle as you're going to have the 2-1 Denver Broncos traveling to Vegas to take on the winless Raiders. Yes, the winless Raiders. Las Vegas got off to that hot start last year that was able to catapult them to the postseason. This time around, the Raiders have been in every game, but the bottom line is Las Vegas has had trouble executing and, more importantly, finishing. There's too much talent on this team for them to be winless. The Raiders are a desperate team and they have to play like that tomorrow. Now, defensively, it starts for the Raiders because they have to put some pressure on this Denver offense, which really has not gotten their rhythm yet with Russell Wilson under center, but they're still 2-1. But I get back to the desperation factor. I think the Raiders will be desperate enough tomorrow and they'll get the 31-27 win. Now, tomorrow night in Tampa, it's a rematch of the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. You're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Bucks getting it on, and they played on this same exact field in Raymond James Stadium, and it was Tampa Bay that dominated Kansas City and prevented them from winning two consecutive championships. Now, it's old lion, of course, Tom Brady against the young lion, Patrick Mahomes, and there are some people out there that want to say that Patrick Mahomes is the heir apparent to Tom Brady. You got to pump the brakes on that. Let's wait and see. But nonetheless, you still have two of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Tampa Bay right now, they're still dealing with injuries at the wide receiver position, and they've been relying on their stout defense to get it done. And this defense is going to have to be on top of its game if it's going to slow down Patrick Mahomes. At the end of the day, very rarely do you see Tom Brady lose two games in a row as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Tampa lost a tough one last week at home to Green Bay. I don't see them losing two in a row. It's going to be a tight one, but I'm going to take the Bucks by the score of 24-23. And finally, on Monday night, it's a classic matchup of the Hatfields and the McCoys, as you're going to have the 2-1 Los Angeles Rams traveling to take on the 1-2 San Francisco 49ers. These teams played three times last year. San Francisco won two, but they lost the also important NFC Championship game. The bottom line is the Niners in recent years have had the Rams number, and a big reason for that is their physicality on the offensive and defensive lines. Now, it's going to be tough for San Francisco right now to run that football as efficiently as they do with no Trent Williams at left tackle as he's out with an injury. But I guarantee you the Niners are definitely going to go out there swinging with their running game. Now, the Niners have been known to put pressure on Rams quarterback Matt Stafford, and you can expect some more of that tomorrow night. And if the Niners can consistently get pressure on Stafford, it's going to neutralize that passing game, which Stafford looks to the likes of Cooper Cup. It's going to be a classic back and forth affair. You have a lot of talent on both of these clubs. You see some guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Aaron Donald for LA, and of course, Nick Bosa for San Fran. So the bottom line is you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks. Of course, Jimmy G and Matt Stafford, obviously the two quarterbacks in this game, scrambling a lot as these defenses will definitely have them on their toes. But nonetheless, I am going to take San Fran at home by the score of 23-20. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 4 in the NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.